She's become unavailable at the last minute, but I'm a senior associate in May's team and we work together in the social care sector. Some of you may have heard me speak about data protection before, but I'm fortunately not going to talk to you about data protection today. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the major overhaul of inspections that's happening at CQC. And we're going to focus on care services as opposed to how that affects commissioners. You will all have some familiarity with the current CQC methodology for inspections, no doubt. They carry out monthly monitoring of risk for each service. If there are no red flags with respect to risk, CQC then give you the green light on their website. If they do see red flags, they will either ask for more information or carry out an inspection. The concerning thing about the current methodology is that once CQC perceive that there is a risk in the service, they're likely to find one. And this is borne out by the downward trend in ratings given to services in recent inspections. So if we could have the next slide, please. So we've all seen ratings rise and fall over the years, and historically around 19% of care homes have been rated requires improvement or inadequate. I checked CQC's website yesterday, and within the last month, 59% of care homes have been rated requires improvement or inadequate. So more than half. This shows that inspections triggered by risk are more likely to find something negative. Next slide, please. Similarly, in home care services, reports in the last month found that 47% were rated requires improvement or inadequate, so almost half. This is much higher than the 11% of home care services that were previously deemed to be requires improvement or inadequate. So what's coming? Next slide, please. And if you click, there should be a table, I hope. Lovely, thank you. CQC plans to create one model, the single assessment framework for all types of services. So that's social care, healthcare services and local authorities. And the old and the new model compare as shown on this table. So a quick rundown of the changes are as follows. So at the moment, there's multiple assessment frameworks for different types of services. The future model will be switching to one assessment framework. CQC take a risk-based approach, ongoing monthly monitoring. In the future model, they'll be looking to move towards an ongoing assessment of risk, which may trigger an inspection. At the moment, the inspection regime uses a snapshot approach using the key lines of inquiry. Questions are asked about prompts, are the prompts, and in the future, CQC propose to gather evidence at multiple points in time and will whittle down the CLOEs to 34 topic areas. At the moment, we have the ratings characteristics. In future, we'll be moving to a numerical system. The factual accuracy check process at the moment gives providers 10 working days, so 2 weeks to challenge a draft inspection report. A recent update showed that CQC have indicated this new process is going to be called a review and submit for an opportunity to review and submit further evidence. The timeframes for that are unclear at the moment. I think we're waiting for more information, but we are concerned that the timeframe may be shortened. At the moment, CQC have long inspection reports, and I think the future plan is for ratings updated on CQC's website and a short statement published. So let's flesh this out. Next slide, please. We will still have 5 key lines of inquiry, but instead of the many prompts or questions that inspectors currently ask when they come to undertake an inspection, there will be 34 topic areas across the 5 key lines of inquiry. 8 for safe, 6 for effective, 5 for caring, 7 for responsive and 8 for well-led. Next slide, please. The standards against which providers will be judged will take the form of we statements. I've put a few examples for well-led on this slide, and they cover topics like governance, management, working in partnership, learning, improvement and innovation. Next slide, please. So CQC will have 34 topic areas into which they will inquire. In these 34 areas, they will gather 6 kinds of evidence. So these are people's experiences of health and care services, feedback from staff and leaders, feedback from partners, so local authorities, etc., observations, processes, and outcomes. Next slide, please. For each topic area, they will give a score of between 1 and 4 for each of the evidence categories. The scoring is shown on this slide and basically aligns with the rating. So a score of 4 would illustrate that evidence shows an exceptional standard of care. A score of 3 would show good standard of care. And a score of 2 would show shortfalls in standard of care, and a score of 1 would show significant shortfalls in standard of care. Unlike now, when all evidence is based on a snapshot inspection, CQC intend to update the evidence they hold in 6 evidence categories at different times. They won't be scoring a service only after an inspection. That's really important to take note of. To take an example, they may change a score for a person's experiences of care based on complaints or compliments received outside of an inspection. So the score for that type of evidence could change at any time, but they will only be able to change a score for the observation category of evidence, i.e. the observation of the care, when they cross the threshold to inspect. The upshot is that different scores may change at different points in time, so the ratings might change as various scores go up and down. The process is that they score 6 types of evidence for each of the 34 topic areas. Then for each topic area, they add up the scores for all the relevant evidence and get a numerical score. They then convert that number into an overall percentage for a specific quality statement. The next step is to convert the original percentage for each quality statement back to a score of between 1 to 4. Next slide, please. They then add up the scores for all of the quality statements for each key question, so for example, safe, and turn the total into a percentage, which translates into a rating. In the example they give, the grades are shown on this slide. So 25 to 38% is inadequate, 39 to 62 requires improvement, 63 to 87 good, and over 87% outstanding. I realise that this sounds like a very convoluted nightmare primary school maths problem. And if you want to understand the detail, there is a helpful worked example on CQC's website. The link to that page is on the slide. I'm sure lots of you have already been there and are way ahead and have visited it. So our view is that CQC are trying to simplify things despite the maths problem I've just explained. But it's difficult for them to achieve consistency under the current prompts and ratings because ultimately it's human nature how something is interpreted, so that they consider that a numerical system will be provide more consistency, certainty, and will help to achieve that. We also wonder if the fact that the different categories of evidence all have the same weighting will help to counteract some of the unfairness in the current system. So where too much weighting is given to people's comments, but the jury is still very much out on this until we see the new system in practice. Having attended a number of CQC's own seminars on this topic, I remain unclear about the process and the detail of it. I asked them, for example, whether providers will have the same opportunity to achieve outstanding as CQC will to score them based on risk. This was not answered. I also asked whether CQC would scrutinise information reported to them. So a complaint, for example, a complaint that they may use to revise your services score. And the response to that was vague and didn't give me very much reassurance, unfortunately. Next slide, please. So to implement these changes, CQC is also changing the way that its regulatory and inspection teams are structured. So one of the key things to know is that inspectors will now take on, will work alongside someone called an assessor. And this is a new role. And an assessor is a sector specialist who leads on maintaining an ongoing view of quality, safety and risk in a service. They will have the overview of the service and decide when CQC need to carry out the inspection. They will work with the inspector to gather evidence. The assessor will carry out the off-site evidence collection, so the sort of intelligence gathering that CQC is already doing behind the scenes. The assessor will look at all of the data about a service and decide whether an inspection is required. CQC say that this will allow them to maintain a more current view of a service as opposed to just the snapshots they get now when they come in to inspect. The assessor will also make the decision about whether to bring enforcement action. Next slide, please. The role of the inspector, we understand, will be similar to what it is now. They will remain sector specialists. In terms of seniority, they are at an equal level to the assessor. Inspectors will do fewer comprehensive inspections, but they will use the data provided by an assessor. And if they cross the threshold, their inspections will be more targeted on inspecting particular areas of concern. The inspector will then write up their findings and give back to the assessor. CQC, they say they will give more regular feedback to providers about the information that they hold on them. They have also indicated that there will be some kind of factual accuracy process, but they said in a webinar in December last year, so this was obviously some time ago now, that they may only give providers a week for this. This was said somewhat speculatively, and we're not aware if they've made a final decision about this. In their April webinar, they said there would still be a factual accuracy process in place and there will still be an ability to challenge the accuracy of judgments they're making, but they didn't mention any timeframes. I also wonder how people are going to be able to challenge changes when there's been no inspection. Presumably there'll be some back and forth with CQC about new information they obtain on your service, but again, we have no detail on this yet. As I said, we have seen the suggestion that this will be called the review and submit evidence stage, and hopefully some detail of that will come out shortly. And lastly, the scores and ratings are updated, and the assessor pushes the button to publish the informational report on CQC's website. Next slide, please. So CQC's teams have been transitioning into their new, more integrated teams. They've been testing parts of their new portal with providers. They've been rolling out their new regulatory platform this summer, and I think this is going to continue until 2024. It will first be used to submit statutory notifications. After that, providers should be able to review draft judgments on the portal. And then I think the original rollout date for the assessment process was supposed to be October. We're already at the 20th of September, and I'm telling you, I don't have lots of information, unfortunately. So I think that's a bit optimistic. We have more recently heard them mention November as a start date to roll out the assessment framework in the south of England based on level of risk. So that doesn't mean that everybody in the south of England will automatically now be using the new assessment framework or can expect to have an inspection based on it. In other regions, the current regime will continue until the rollout of the single assessment framework is complete. CQC say that all interactions will be through the portal and that it will be simple and intuitive. That's their words, not ours, and I hope this is correct. But if anyone hears from any other providers or has any kind of direct experience or feedback, then I'd be grateful to hear that. Overall, what is CQC intending to achieve with these changes? They say that they will be able to see a more real-time review as to where services are against ratings. So rather than having a snapshot, you will have a more constant view of the changes in the rating. Ratings may change as a result of information received as well as due to an inspection. We're not sure yet how much the public will be able to see. They say that they're trying to avoid there being long gaps in time when services are updated. So there'll be a process of requesting information from the provider, And overall, the process of requesting information is going to be more dynamic. We have a strong urge to ask questions about this. So, for example, and I'm sure these are lots of questions that you have too, what information can change your rating? What is the process for determining and correcting that information? We still don't have enough detail on this yet, but I think it's important for you as providers to be involved in the development of the new regime. CQC have also said that if a service is rated requires improvement, then you'll be able to see where they are on the scale of requires improvement. So in other words, if you're closer to good or if you're closer to inadequate, and if you're moving in the wrong direction, you'll be able to see this, but I believe this may only work if and when they start to publish the scores that they give. CQC say that they will do this eventually, but not immediately. CQC have also said that they're moving away from writing long reports and engaging in a long-winded factual accuracy process. So I've heard them referring to the new process as review and submit further evidence. They say they're intending to let providers know what they have found out about them. Will give you a download of the information that they have, and it's not clear how long you'll have to work through that and check its factual accuracy and how that will work. They're also aiming to achieve more consistency in their judgments across services. They say that this new system will be very transparent, for example, with respect to the scoring that they will use. Having a platform will also allow inspection managers to see what's going on in their teams. So what does this mean for you? I think you'll have to have someone in your service actively managing this process. They will need to be ready to jump if CQC send any negative information. There will be no time to hesitate, and we would consider changing the way that you engage with CQC at present and becoming much more proactive about it. We are feeling very concerned about the potential shortening of the timeframe for responding to CQC's concerns, and the lack of detail we have currently about the factual accuracy or review and submit evidence process. In our experience, a factual accuracy check done properly takes time and is a really detailed evidential exercise. And then next slide, please. Oh, sorry, we've already done that bit. Next. Thank you. My main takeaway today is that it is critical that we do not allow CQC to whittle away providers' right to reply regarding the facts surrounding your services. So we all know that CQC can get things wrong, and there's so much riding on CQC's assessment of a service that you must be given a fair opportunity to correct CQC. If the process proposed is insufficient, then I think providers need to club together and push back on that, perhaps through their care associations. And that's it from me. Thanks for listening. I'm happy to take questions or to open up the floor to discussion. I can't see the chat, so I'm not sure if anything's come through, so apologies if I've missed that during.
No, nothing yet. Nothing comes through on chat that I can see.
Okay. I think what I will say, if anyone has any questions about CQC inspections or the regulatory regime generally, then you can follow up with your care association and they can get in touch with us, or you can contact us directly. If anyone wants to jot it down, my email address is fran.tremere, as my name is spelled on the screen, at RWK Goodman, so rwkgoodman.com. And I'd be happy to respond and engage by email directly if you don't want to ask in this session in front of a group of people.